Right. I bet you didn't know this, but the withdrawal method that you pick on Fiverr can cost you four figures a year. Same gigs, same clients, same gross earnings. Different box ticked on the payments page, and the number that lands in your bank account can move by hundreds. Not in a positive way. Now, this is the same trap that a lot of new sellers fall into. Today, I've earned almost 600k in net earnings on Fiverr, and I've tested every withdrawal option the platform offers. I've since moved on to a setup that isn't even on Fiverr's default menu, which I'll get to in a minute. But first, the four realistic options you've actually got, ranked by what they cost you with a clear recommendation for the earning level that you're at right now. Because the right answer changes depending on how much money you're pulling through the platform. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly which one to pick and roughly how much you've been leaving on the table by staying with the default. Now, the four realistic options. Strip away everything else, and this is what you get. PayPal, the default, the one that most people select when they first sign up and never revisit. Payoneer, sending straight to your regular bank. Payoneer, but paired with a Wise or Revolut account as your receiving account. And the fourth, which doesn't even appear on Fiverr's withdrawal menu at all, is a US business setup that lets dollars stay in dollars. That's what I run now. Different from the other three in that it requires some actual setup rather than just ticking a box. So let's rank them worst first. Now, of course, PayPal sits right at the bottom of the ranking, and if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know exactly why. To be completely honest, I don't even understand why people still use PayPal. But still, I guarantee the truth is, statistically, most of you watching have it selected on your account right now as the default. The reason it costs the most is the exchange rate. PayPal applies its own rate to every currency conversion. Not the rate that you'd see on Google, but their version of that rate, which runs 3 to 4% worse on every conversion forever. You don't see a fee on the receipt because they've built their margins straight into the exchange rate itself. Now, on top of that, there's a 1.5% international transfer surcharge when the money crosses currencies. Combined, you can lose up to 5.5% of the dollar amount before it reaches your account. So let's say a US client pays you $1,000. At the actual mid-market rate, that converts to roughly £760. PayPal delivers about £730. £30 gone of that one payment before it even shows up. Now remember, nearly half of all Fiverr revenue comes from US buyers, 49.38% according to Fiverr's own SEC filings. If you're UK based, you're converting on basically every order you complete. So that's the worst option. But before I get to the better ones, I want to talk about the setup I actually use as of a few months ago. And in fact, I got them to sponsor this video. You see, the root problem sits one layer above whichever processor you pick. PayPal, Payoneer, even the Wise setup I'm about to get to. All of them involve a USD to whichever currency conversion at some point. Dollars come in at some stage, they become pounds or euros, whether that's the moment you withdraw or the moment the money hits your bank, unless you've got a way of actually holding dollars as dollars. That's where a US business setup comes in. A proper US LLC gives you genuine US bank details, a US routing number, a US account number, the full set. And this is where it connects back to Wise. Because if you've got a Wise account, you can add those US bank details to it, which means dollars from Fiverr can land into your Wise account as actual dollars and stay there. No forced conversions on the way in. No conversion at your bank either. You hold the dollars and convert whenever the rate suits you. And by using Doula, the sponsor of this video, they'll handle the whole formation process for you. The LLC, the EIN, the registered agent, the US business bank details, all Y Combinator backed. Specifically built for international freelancers and founders selling to US clients, which is most Fiverr sellers, whether they realize it or not. And the other thing worth knowing, once you've got a US LLC, there's actually compliance that comes with it. The IRS can fine you up to $25,000 for missing paperwork deadlines. That's not a worst case scenario either. That's the published penalty. Doula handles that side of it for you too. So you're not left trying to figure out US tax filing requirements on your own from the UK. They offer a few different plans, so you'll need to run the maths against your own numbers off of what you're pulling in every single month to see which is going to be the most beneficial for you. But I can tell you what you're currently losing in conversions is likely already more than the cost of setting this up. However, if you are new and only making a few $100s a month right now, then this is probably not the right moment for you to consider this. However, I'll leave the link in the description so that you can go check this out for yourself. Right, back to the rankings. The LLC route is the end game, not where most of you watching should start. So let's look at what sits in between there. Third on the list, Payoneer, going straight into your regular bank. The way this actually works, and most sellers using it have never really thought about the mechanisms behind it, is that Fiverr pays the money into Payoneer and then Payoneer sends it on to whichever bank account you've connected. And on the way through, your high street bank automatically converts the currency based on wherever your bank happens to be located. Meaning, what hits your account will never be US dollars unless you're already banking in the US. So if your bank is a European bank, it gets switched straight into euros. If you're in the UK with a regular high street bank, pounds, at whatever conversion rate your bank decides. And that's where it gets expensive for most sellers. If you're sending money from Payoneer into a standard high street bank account, the conversion rates are usually pretty poor. Better than PayPal in terms of direct fees, but the forced conversion at your bank's rate means you're still leaving a decent chunk of money on the table. Which brings me to number 2 on the list. And for most people watching this video, this is the one I'd actually recommend. Wise and Revolut, second overall, and this is where the setup starts to genuinely make sense for most sellers watching this. The advantage is the conversion rate. Wise and Revolut offer near mid-market rates, basically the rate that you'd see if you Googled dollars to pounds right this second, which is significantly better than anything you'll get through PayPal or through a regular high street bank. Now, the way this works in practice, you still withdraw from Fiverr to your bank via Payoneer. That part of the flow doesn't change. But instead of that money landing in a traditional bank account and getting converted at the bank's rate, it lands in your Wise or Revolut account. Again, at a currency in whichever part of the world you're located. But the benefit now is that the conversion fees are minimal, usually around 1 to 2%. Now, if you're currently withdrawing through PayPal or through Payoneer straight into your high street bank, switching to Payoneer paired with a Wise or Revolut account is probably the single biggest improvement you can make on your Fiverr account. And this is where the doula setup I mentioned earlier stacks on top. Because once you've got US bank details from your LLC, you can add those to Wise, and the dollars stop converting at all on the way in. They just sit there as dollars until you want to move them, which is the whole point of the setup. So that's the ranking. But which should you actually pick depends entirely on where you're at right now. So let me break this down properly. This is how I'd think about it if you ask me directly. If you're earning under $500 a month on Fiverr right now, use Payoneer paired with Wise or Revolut. Set it up once, takes 15 minutes, move on. Focus your actual energy on getting more orders. The difference between this setup and a US entity at that income level doesn't really justify setting up a company. Your time is actually better spent elsewhere. Now, if you're between $500 and $2,000 a month, still Payoneer paired with Wise or Revolut for your actual withdrawals. But at this level, you should now be mapping out your plan for the doula route. Because the moment your monthly US dollar amount intake crosses about $2,000 consistently, the conversion losses start to add up to real money, and the LLC setup genuinely starts paying for itself within the first year. Now, I do hope that this was helpful. If you do have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them for you. Otherwise, this video on screen right now is what YouTube thinks you should go watch next.